hides in public toilets, plus of the subway station. Under the toilet is flowed all over the floor. This place has become a sleeping place. At night, the man who hasn't had time yet sleep outside. Suddenly, there was an urgent knock on the door. The man just covered his hands with his hands. The sun has just washed his feet. Use all his strength to block the door. At this time, he only hopes that people, the outside soon left. A person who used to work as a salesperson, always have to smile every day, welcoming customers. At this time, a strong person like you. In the end, he couldn't stand it anymore. But he still tried his best. He didn't cry out loud. Sometimes life is really too hard. Obviously, I made a lot of effort. But why is life still like that? This is the time of the dark heart in his life. Therefore, he tried his best to create miracles. Not only successful overcoming difficult periods, but also lucky to become a billionaire. This is definitely a transmission movie. Inspiration cannot be missed. The story takes place in the United States in 1981. At the time, America is going through a severe economic crisis. The streets are full of homeless people, fainting from hunger. On TV, the President of the United States is working. Dad's sad numbers. The man in front of the screen is named Creed. Before the economic crisis occurred, he used all the savings, save on buying a batch of scanners, positive and become a supplier. Only in San Francisco. He thought he would get a large profit. From there you can live a happy life. But the reality broke his heart. His scanner is just sharp. A little more than a regular machine. But the price is twice that of the machine. Common. So, when he returned the sale, he was always rejected. Now, Creed has been unemployed for several months. Not only rent owed, more than 2 months at my son, he also had to go to school at a kindergarten. Even the word happiness is misspelled. In order to maintain this family, his weak wife must do 2 jobs a day. The pressure of life turns into words, sarcastically aimed at him. Creed can only endure it all silently. It is said that the painting is unreasonable. That day, when Creed went to sell the scanner, due to illegal parking, not only the police locked the car, last out, his car was also towed away. This makes the family capital, Mr. Sang's difficulties, more difficult plantings. You have to sell at least 2 machines, scan every month to survive. But the reality is that it has been a long time. He did not sell any of them. Creed walks in nothingness, on the street. It's been a long time since he got a bud. Real laughter from the heart. That day, when passing through an office building, he met a man who drove the luxurious bare-lip car. Creed took the initiative to ask, "What do you do? And how?" The man smiled and replied to him, "I am a broker, chapter contracting." Creed asked curiously, "This job definitely requires a college degree, right?" The man said to him, "Just be good at calculation. And no, behavior is enough. Look at the happy face of everyone around." Creed also begins to dream, become a broker, contractor. Why can't I, like them? After a night of thought, he told his wife about his intentions, but only received ridicule. Brokerage broker? Yes. Why not become an astronaut, always going? Then, the two of them had a fierce quarrel. Creed believed that things would get better eventually. But his wife is no longer. Believe his words too. She worked 2 jobs each, continuous days for more than 4 months. She just hopes he can sell it soon. Indoor scanners. Even without his wife's support, Creed still arrives at the building of the Chuang Contracting Company. To look more dashing when inside, Creed asked a girl to play guitar on PS. Hold the scanner. He even gave her $1 as money. Thanks, and emphasized that this machine is not worth anything. Unexpectedly, when he just received, get an application. Then I saw the guitar girl carrying. The machine is gone. Creed hurriedly chased after her. He ran on at full speed to the subway station. But he looked at her helplessly. Board the ship and leave. At one time it cost a whole month of living expenses. Creed only knows how to bang on the door. The ship was a little angry. After calming down, he began to review the application. The company plans every 6 months, recruiting 20 interns, but in the end only 1 person was retained. The qualification requirements section on the application is only written from level 3 or higher. That seemed too far away to him. That night, Creed couldn't sleep. He thought about whether he should seize this fragile opportunity and sink deep into the ceilings. Later, when I took my child to school, his wife constantly reminded him, "It is best to sell the machine before going home." After taking your child to school, Creed didn't go out to sell scanners. Instead, he took the application form to Chuang Contracting Company. Unlike most people just apply at the cinnamon reception, he directly handed over the application to Head of Human Resources Department. When stepping down the stairs, he stumbled upon the guitar girl is holding his machine. There is no danger from the car on the road. He rushed to chase after him. Eventually, he got it back, the machine on the beat car. Creed's son after school is milk, touched when he saw 2 scanners. Didn't Dad say he would sell the machine? Why are there 2 now? Creed's wife also only knew, looked at him helplessly. No matter how Creed tried to explain, his wife also didn't want to hear more. Even before I was pregnant, he said everything would be better. But until now, we still have nothing. Even his wife also no longer trusts. How desperate Creed was in his heart, due to the fierce competition in the company. After applying, and he didn't get a reply, Creed decided to wait under company house. Unexpectedly, he had been waiting for a month, until the day he happened to be meeting with the head of the human department. He really wanted to chat directly, continue with him, to let him know that he is not only good at math, but also very skillful in communication. Nevertheless, the head of the department was in a hurry to go away, to seize this once-in-a-thousand-year opportunity. Creed lied that he too go to the same place, so they both got into a taxi. To make a strong impression on the head of the department, Creed constantly introduces himself. But the head of the department is engrossed. Rotate the Rubik's in your hand. He even didn't like looking at Creed. At that time, Rubik's Day was just becoming popular. Few people can complete it. Looking at the head of the department will be fascinated. Unsolvable. Creed said I could. You can't do it. Let me see. The head of the department showed contempt, and give the Rubik's Cube to Creed. He didn't believe Creed could solve it. Unexpectedly, Creed quickly completed, into one side. Then, he focused entirely on the solution of the Rubik's Cube. Finally, before the car arrives, Creed has completed the entire Rubik's Cube. The head of the department looked at him in disbelief. Even re-driving does not hold back. Turn around and watch. Creed can solve Rubik's Cubes. It turned out to be at his house. There's a toy like so. In his spare time, he often fumbled on his own. I didn't expect that to be effective at this time. This has left an impression deeply with the head of the department. The head of the department hurriedly went to school and got off the bus immediately afterwards. Looking at the lake, the price is $18. Creed looked at the wallet again. Emptiness. When the car stopped at the temple, Creed jumps out of the car and carries. The machine runs away. Just running. He just sang aloud to apologize. Actually, he didn't want to kneel down for money. But in this situation, he had no other choice. Unexpectedly, the driver chased him again. According to him, non-stop. Even if Creed runs in subway station, the driver continued to chase. To cut off the tail of the driver, Creed jumps up a ride. The train is about to close. Even though he was able to get on the train. But the machine was unfortunate, stuck outside the door. Creed tried his best to pull the machine inside. Nevertheless, all efforts are in vain. Eventually, he was forced to let go. Not 1 month of living expenses, lost like that. I don't know how to explain how when you get home. And I don't know what to do next. Then the heavy rain came, and he called his wife. Hopefully she can pick up her child home. But in response to him were words. I've decided to leave. I've cleaned up, fixed stuff, and was going to take me out of here. Creed runs like crazy back home, but still 1 step late. His wife took his son away. The house is also empty. Right? Creed is grieved when the head of the department called. Asked him to come for an interview in a few days. But first, make a note of the secretary's number. She'll notify you. All notes. At this time, newly discovered Creed in the house even, there is no longer a pen. He had to memorize the number in your head, and then run to the nearest store, both mistake and remember. Quickly find a pen to write, phone number down. That night, Creed stared sleeplessly. The next morning, he soon found his wife. Hope to be able to bring my son back with me. Because of this, the two argued fiercely in the street, but his wife insisted, refusing to make concessions. Just because he wants to be with his son. Waiting for my child to get out of school. Creed picked up the boy early. Unexpectedly. Just arrived home. The landlord has come to find it. Their rent has been owed for 3 months. If you do not pay immediately, you must move away immediately. Under Creed's murmur, the landlord finally agreed for an additional week, but the condition is that Creed must be painted the house for him. While Creed was painting the house, 2 policemen arrived. Then, he He was taken to the police station. It turned out that it was because he didn't submit the previous traffic ticket penalty. Cashless. Creed had to write a book. But at that time the bank was closed. Police had to wait until 9:30 a.m. tomorrow morning to confirm with the bank. Only when they confirmed it would they release him. Creed had to call his wife. Then, he was detained all night. The code arrived at 9:45 the next morning. After the verification is complete, the police refused to release him, leaving the police station. Creed runs like a fly to the building. Contracted companies. Last. He also arrived in time for the interview. Others are dressed in modest, and he wears everyday clothes, full of paint stains. Folding visible appearance, was extremely surprised. You're losing my face, huh? Creed takes the initiative to move forward, shake hands with each person. Stacked up, it clearly showed an uncomfortable look. Not yet for the interviewers to speak. Creed honestly began to speak. Standing at the door, I tried to come up with a good reason to explain today's form, but in the end I felt I should tell the truth. I was arrested by the police for not pay a fine for traffic tickets, and I just ran from the police station here. Before being arrested, I'm painting a new house, so it looks like this. Folding clearly showed an unpleasant look. Draw a few rings on the paper. Seeing that the chances of success are slim, Creed took the initiative to speak. Can I say a few words? His sincere words were collected, attract the attention of the stack. Folding up asked another question to him. If there is a person who does not wear a semi-shirt, ran to the interview, what would you think? If in the end, I still recruit that person, how will you feel? Sure, his pants must be very special. The funny and interesting answer made all the interview judges smiled, despite the successful interview. But when he walked out of the room, Creed didn't smile at all, because only then did he know. The internship lasted 6 months, but not being paid a certain salary. At the end of the internship, the company will select 120 people. If not selected, to another company. Every training course will have to start from scratch. Currently, there are 6 scanners left at home. If they sell out favorably, maybe he just held on until the end of the internship period. But in the end, it is better to choose. Which way is this? No one can give you. The answer is clear. That night, his wife took the child home. She tells Creed that she intends to move to New York for development. Maybe there will be a better chance there. Creed wants you to live with him. This time, his wife didn't say anything more. Before leaving, she entered the room again. Looking at his son full of nostalgia, she asked Creed, I know you'll take good care of him. Creed, I believe that. Creed didn't say anything, because he didn't know what was going on. Will happen next. He could only watch his wife leave. Creed is full of helplessness. At that moment, he's secretly determined. It must be done. After that, he called contracting schools. Agree to participate in the training course. Create their 6 months. In order to save costs, they move into a motel, have cheaper rents. On Saturday, he took his son to play basketball. The son said happily, growing up will become a sentence. Professional basketball player. Creed thought he was a father. Since childhood, my father was not good at playing basketball. I work as a professional basketball catcher. There is no hope. Well, it's better to think about other things soon. The son lost all interest because he was shielded. Teachers and children are sad. Creed realized he had said the wrong thing. Then he said to his son, don't let others tell you that you can't succeed. Even the 3 can't. If you have a dream, leave it. People who can't do anything only know how to talk to. I think I can't do it either. If you have an ideal, make an effort to make it happen. That day, Creed was lucky enough to sell a scanner. Finally enough cost. Activities this month. Next, internship work officially started. They don't just participate in training, theory at the company that. I also have to learn a shoe book on professional knowledge. In order to be able to make an impression on the company, Creed took advantage of the 10-minute break, rushed down to the game of asking and arranging. And by the way, please kindly, internal industry news. When the two were chatting happily, Creed sees the scanner, deed at the local train station. Underground is in the hands of A. The Vosaku people went crazy. Say goodbye quickly to the fold. He quickly ran after the person. Due to the focus only on the Vosaku people, he was hit by a car, crossing the road. In the screed, he was stunned. The shoes on the feet are also not. Know where it has fallen. Creed tried to endure pain in his legs to find shoes, but still couldn't find it in the end. He had to walk on one shoes back to the company. Every day, he not only participates in high-intensity training sessions, he also has to do everything for instructors. When I go to buy coffee. When you run across the street to buy donuts. After work, he hurriedly picked up his children after school. First of all, take a section of the underground train, then change to a bus. They had to cross more than half the city street to go home to sleep. Sometimes the two of them are too tired, so sleeping on the bus. After a period of training, they started trying to call people back. To save time on calls, Chris hung up the phone and called first, back to the next one. Never put the phone down. To have more time to call. In the company, he does not drink water. In order to save time, have to go to the toilet. Just that way. He just finished the job. 8 hours in 6 hours. Because he needs to leave work early to pick up his children from school. That day, it was very difficult for me to meet a CEO. That person will spend for a few 20 minutes later. Chris put down his phone and rush over there. If it can be closed, this will be a big customer. He constantly motivates himself. But as soon as he arrived at the court, his house was hit by people. Instructions to call back to ask for parking. Before Chris could refuse, the instructor ran away. Reluctantly, he had to pull out the car first. When opening the car door with the key, the opposite parking space has been occupied by another vehicle. He drove very far to find a parking spot. After parking, he quickly ran again. Looks like a mighty Black Panther, but even though he ran very fast, he still missed the appointment because he had to lost parking time to be satisfied by the general director. On weekends, he took his son come home to apologize. The general director was touched in front of him. The sincerity of Al. He found his son very cute. At the same time, the general director was also planning, take your son to watch the game, football. So I invited two, father and son, Chris accompanying. Where to watch the ball is a luxurious private room. Despite not reaching a cooperation agreement, but seeing my sons so happy, Chris felt the trip was worth it. When the match is over, everyone in the room thinks Chris is a close friend of the general director, and their house turn to give him a business card. In the 4th month of internship, Chris was lucky enough to sell out all the scanners. Thought that the life of the blessing is about to begin. A letter pulls him back to reality. It's a $600 tax bill that he had to pay immediately. After paying the tax, his account only had $21 left to sustain life. I went to get back the $14 you had borrowed, but the friend who used to help, he moved house to pay off debts. Finally, 2 friends for many years turned around because of $14. That day, while playing with their son in the park, Chris sees the Vosaku people again. Hold your scanner. Chris rushed over to retrieve it. If sold, it will be living expenses for the whole month. He carefully cleaned the machine, scanned from the inside out. Out. It's very difficult to find. A doctor needs it. But the device cannot turn on, because the epidemic he just held in his hands failed. But the mystery continues. When they returned to the motel, all the solid stuff was thrown out for not paying rent on time. The lock has also been replaced. Chris tried to climb through the window and get inside. All efforts are in vain. After thinking, he decided to take his son away. But the boy didn't understand. Obviously the house is here. Why can't you enter? The boy clung to the door and kept screaming. Chris shouted at his son for the first time. Hey, hear me say no. Stop now. Shut up. Have nowhere else to go. They arrive at the subway station. The heavy boy asked where they were going. Chris didn't know how to answer either. The boy suddenly asked, is this a time machine? Because the Vosaku people are crazy. The other always said that. The teacher asked. Chris decided to go with his mind. Your imagination? Chris says this is a time machine. Can take them back to the past. The father and son started playing time travel games, pretending that they film back to the dinosaur era. Around them it is easy to. Dangerous dinosaur. They had to find a cave to hide. Chris leads his son into hiding. In the restroom. After spreading toilet paper on the floor, they sleep on the bathroom floor. Suddenly, someone came to knock on the toilet door. Chris just covered his son's ears and put your feet out to block the door. That moment, Chris. The person who is always strong cannot. I can bear it anymore. It turns out that when people suffer and extreme despair, they may shed tears without holding their eyes. After a difficult night in the toilet, life still has to go on. From there, wherever he went, he always would take all your baggage with you. To avoid having to sleep indoors, cleaning at night, they followed the flow of Vosaku people to the center. Social protection queue. Unexpectedly, the rows of teeth are cracked. I don't see the end point. When it was their turn, the manager announced that there were only 4 seats left to reserve a place. Chris, the polite eel, fought with a Vosaku on the line. The manager is angry and kicked them both out. On behalf of someone testified that Vosaku is really on the line. The Vosaku people were criticized, retreat, and leave. That night, Chris bathed his son first. After putting his son to sleep, Chris sat in the hallway fixing the scanner. When the hallway lights are off, he borrows light from street lamp to read all night. During the day, he had to meet a lot of customers. After work, he rushed to pick up his child from school, then hurriedly got on the bus again to the sponsorship center to ensure there is a seat on the bus. He taught his son how to load goods into the car to keep up with the curriculum. He even ate while take advantage of reading. Very quickly the exam came. A good candidate who completes early papers and submissions. Chris also submitted the paper shortly after. In the elevator, the good candidate said that the exam was too easy. Chris said the first part of the test was easy, but the final question is quite difficult. The sentence, that's right, on the back. The other good contestant hurriedly ran back to the exam room. As Chris prepares to go to meet with clients, the boss borrowed him $5 to pay for the taxi. Chris looks at the wallet, his emptiness, hold the $5 bill, and rub it a few times. In the end, he still lent it to the boss, because the exam takes up too much time. That day, they can't queue up at the sponsorship center. Because he lent the boss $5, Chris only ordered one dish. Night. Watching his son eat, he could only try to suppress his hunger. That night, the father and son spent the night on a subway. To have money to repair the scanner, Chris decided to go sell blood. At this time, in addition to the blood in his body, he couldn't think of anything else to sell. Get the money to sell blood. The first thing he did was buy the U-shaped light bulb, to have a place to sleep in the evening. He let his son to learn how to goods to run temporarily. Every day, he has to jostle with their homeless people. Chris feels guilty for little son, but his son rubbed his face and said, "Dad is a good dad." After eating his son's sausage, he continued to repair the scanner again. Replace the light bulb after buying. When the switch is pressed, the scanner finally lit up again. Mr. Sang immediately lit up the whole room as a ray of hope, dispelling all darkness. At the same time, it also give Chris endless power. The next day, he sold the machine. The scan has been corrected. Eventually he had enough money. Living expenses for 1 month. That night, they no longer have to wait in line to run temporarily. Instead, they stayed in a motel, perhaps used to sturdy sleeping places. The father and son fell asleep on the sofa. The next day, after work, they come to the coast to play. All the noise and suffering seem to have left them. In the end, the father and son hatched a rare smile. In the following days, Chris found all the guests familiar goods on the basketball court. He tried his best to do everything I can. Even so, he is still unsure about being accepted into work. Very quickly, the last day of the internship came. Calling. Chris suddenly received a notification, asked him to go to the Stack's office. Chris hurriedly put his shirt back on, suit clumsily. Entering the office, he awaits the final verdict. Unexpectedly, he took the initiative to shake hands with him. Also complimented his semi-shirt, very beautiful, and I wish you could wear it tomorrow. Because tomorrow will be your first day. If you want to become a person, broker's here. Do you agree, Chris? Yes, sir. Chris couldn't hold back his tears. A person who is always eloquent like you. Now he is speechless. He can only be continuous. Nodded in response to the arrangement. Chris held back tears and shook hands one by one. When Chris left the room, he called him back. It turned out to be to return $5 that he had borrowed from him before. This is also another way to recognize him. Leave the room. He was so emotional that he can hold the basket code until stepping out of the company. He burst into tears in the crowd and performed the movements that only the Lord understands. He used all his strength to applaud yourself. Silent applause, but that strong is a compliment to him. This moment, happiness finally knocked on his door. He ran like flying to his son's school, hold the child tightly, not wanting to let go. From now on, he will no longer have to pull. I ran on the road too. Instead, they will walk hand in hand together. 6 years later, he founded the first company, their own private property. In the final scene, the man of color goes, passing 2 boys. They are the original characters, sample of this story. Chris Gardner. The film asks for Happiness to be directed by Gabriel Machino, starring Will Smith and son Jaden Smith. This biopic was released in 26. Even if it's a movie, Hollywood inspiration. We can't help but exclamation. It is too difficult for family members to rise. Most of them are not for doing, not hard enough. But because the rope is loose, not giving them a chance to breathe. Like Greed in the movie. In order to turn the scanner table, he had to carry, according to the machine, weighing up to 20 pounds every day to sell. To become an employee, buying securities, he had to do an unpaid internship for 6 months. To be eligible for rent payment, he had to help the landlord repaint the house. Because there is no money to pay car fines, he had to spend the night at the police station, for there is nowhere to go. He had to hug his sleeping son. Public toilets. In order to have a place in the detention center, he had to pull his son, running fast on the road. Luckily, Greed got through it all, and he finally achieved success. In fact, the path of life is to dare step forward, based on dreams, beliefs, his own hard work, and perseverance. Only then, we have a chance. Prove yourself on that journey and find the value that I want. So that's today's story. End here. I hope everyone likes it.
Enjoyed the video? Hit subscribe, drop a like, share with your crew, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk movies.